The business of medicine is constantly changing. The review by Resolve discusses current contract issues for physicians, compensation trends, and tips for a successful career. Every physician's contract and career is different, and nothing in this episode should be considered legal advice. If you have specific questions about your career, please consult with an attorney. Now, on to the show.
Skyler Mickelson, welcome back to the review. Good to have you on again. We're going to talk today about what I'm going to say is the minority position for clients right now, talking about private practice and talking about being on a partnership track. So we know that, most physicians today are going into health systems or academic centers or, kind of an employed setting, somewhere between 75 and 80% of residents are hitting those positions, but it's not everybody, right? People are still finding good private practices to join. And so their employment contracts in that situation are a little bit different, right? There's a few caveats and really important caveats that we've got to pay attention to. So let's zoom out for a second, really high level. What things are going to be different in a private practice partnership track contract that you wouldn't necessarily even think about or pay attention to in a purely employed setting?
The private practice employment agreement may differ from our standard employed position in compensation models, opportunities, terms. It tends to be closer knit, and so that could affect down as far as to termination provisions and shorter notice periods. It's far more personal potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, personal meaning they're joining hopefully a future business partner, right? I mean, it's a colleague, it's another physician. It's not a huge organization with thousands of employees and administrators, right? This is a very kind of a one-to-one setting. So you mentioned comp can be a little bit different. What do you tend to see that's different from a large organization when you're in a private practice?
In private practice, especially where partnership may or may not be on the horizon, but where it is on the horizon, we may take an approach to compensation that says, this might not be what my colleagues are seeing for compensation, but I have an opportunity potentially at partnership, which could bring different, more robust opportunities. And so we have to weigh that on the front side of what could be partnership.
Yeah. So if you're on a partnership track, you're going to hopefully be an owner at some point, right? And so there's certainly revenues, right, that are being generated and distributions that are coming out to owners that employees, if you're in a large health system, you'll never have the action or never have the access to that type of payment. So sometimes, when I've seen those contracts, we do see, lower guarantees, right? We may see more push towards a collection model, right? Or a production basis. These are still small businesses, right? That are running with the idea or the concept that you're getting paid a little bit less than maybe your peers, right? Because of this carrot that's coming at the end. So worst case scenario for a physician is that they go on this partnership track and then it disappears, right? And then it never gets offered. So how do we try to protect physicians in that setting to make sure that kind of that worst case scenario doesn't happen?
From the perspective that we may be taking a compensation hit earlier in lieu of this opportunity at partnership, we want to balance an understanding of a partnership price, really plays a role in what might be fair compensation now. If there's a substantial buy-in, I might be less eager to take a smaller salary.
Sure.
Whereas if the buy-in at least appears to me to be fair or offered at a reduced price, maybe based on the compensation that comes with my interim associate role, that can still work.
Yeah, so it's the idea would be that if I'm taking a base salary that's less, right, or total compensation that's less right now, it's almost like prepaying my buy-in, right?
Correct.
As opposed to if there's still a huge buy-in at the end, why am I taking a discount up front too? So we try to look at this, how much am I paying in total, not just how much am I paying at the end. How common is it to have details on partnership in the contract, in the employment contract?
Right. Yeah. We want it to be addressed, at least that it's the party's intention. We're entering into this agreement and this is our end goal, but the level of details isn't what we might expect. For the same reason that if I apply to be your partner in a business, as good as that looks today, you might use the interim period to feel out and make sure you and I are going to be good business partners.
Right.
For that reason, what we can do is try to get an understanding as to time when we might when I can expect to have the conversation with you about becoming a partner. the next thing what I can do is try to understand the purchase price, be it the purchase price formula.
Right.
What we do for our clients, to the extent we can, is we would like to have an explicit formula in there if we could, or that it's based on fair market value, something so that when we get there, I don't have sticker shock. I'm not subject to an inflated price tag that wasn't discussed previously.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to in an interview say, hey, yeah, whatever your buy-in's going to be $100,000, and then you get there and it's $1 million. You're like, whoa, yep. I would have never taken the job if I knew it was $1 million buy-in.
Right.
Yeah. So I do think having those details on when are we going to have the conversation, how is the formula going to be calculated, am I coming in as an equal owner with you? If there's two of us, is it 50-50, or am I getting 5% and you still keep 95%? I mean, all those things matter as to how interested I think a physician is in joining the private practice.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the other thing that I sometimes clients struggle with is the concept that there might be more than one thing you're buying into, right? So in a private practice, it may be the medical practice, it may be, depending on specialty, other things. What's the maybe highest number, I guess, of total entities that you've seen them have to buy into?
After a medical practice, assuming that's at least one, the next most popular venture is real estate.
Right.
And from there, if it's one entity or five, depending how they structure those holdings.
Yeah.
So 2 to 3, if I'm given most popular.
Yeah, I agree. I think 3 is fairly common. So it's the medical practice, right? That has the patient charts and things, inside of it. There's the real estate portion, right? And so you're paying yourself rent and, playing the tax games with that you can. And then a lot of times, depending on specialty, there might be a surgery center or endoscopy center or something else, right? That, maybe you're a fractional owner in, right? With other physicians in town. So when you think about buying into a practice, especially a private practice, it's going to be usually multiple entities.
Right.
Yeah. What are some of the details you should be thinking about asking on early if you're looking at a partnership that you might not ask for from a documentation standpoint if you're just going to be an employee?
Yeah, some details we would care about when partnerships on the horizon might be the financial health of this entity, this practice. And so, the first document that might come to mind would be profits and losses. And we understand that is a potentially sensitive ask of our clients.
I think it's for sure sensitive.
It's diligent business practice as well, though. And so we ask not so much to be nosy, but to know that assuming there is an investment on my part, be it buy-in or a compensation arrangement, that I will be able to get a return on my investment and just have that total return that I'm looking for.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to join any small business and you're going to want to be an owner at some point, you want to make sure you have a general understanding of, is the thing profitable? Is there a ton of debt that's out there, right? Is there anything, tax liabilities that I don't know about? I think it'd be okay and it'd be understandable if the practice pushed back a little bit, like, hey, we're just hiring you, right? We don't want to give all of our books to you yet. Legally, you can solve that, right? We could have NDAs signed or, confidentiality agreements to cover that. But I do think it's a good sign if a practice is willing to show you, right, kind of some of the books, even if it's anonymized and they take people's names off of it. It's a good practice to go through for our clients to understand that.
And it's a good sign of the employer. I mean, it's a high level of transparency. So it makes our clients' decision making easier to say, I got this information, whether or not they had to ask for it. We have a fair number of employers who maybe it's advertising to say, look what we're doing. Look at the success we're seeing. And when employers can show that makes our clients feel all the better.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a good recruitment tactic, right? Saying, hey, look how profitable we are. You're going to have a chance to partake in this. So how long, and there's no right answer in this, gut reaction, how long is a partnership track? And I know it varies by specialty some, but what's a general rule?
Most common, we see 2 years. I mean, we'll see 1 year and we'll see in 1 year and we'll see more than that, but 2 tends to be the most prevalent. Yeah.
A couple of years, you have a pretty good idea if you like somebody, if they're going to be productive, if they're, meeting the culture, that type of thing. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay. Anything else you see on partnerships that you feel like our clients should know about at a high level?
Partnerships, be aware. Again, we talked about the buy-in process, or to whatever extent that takes you. But you, like everyone else, there's a return you want to hit. You too want to make sure that these are the individuals you can do business with, and ideally see yourself working with long term. Have a good grasp on what entities are involved. We talked about if the practice is held in one entity, but we have real estate in another. It can be far more nuanced potentially than a standard W-2 employment, but the the upside is thrilling.
Yeah. No, and we know with all the statistics and studies on physician burnout, there's a very clear line on physicians are burning out less in private practice than they are in hospital employed and academic centers. And so we're not here to give an opinion on why that is, but I do think if you're leaning that direction, you still want to make sure you're doing your due diligence, going through all the documentation the right way, making sure you understand what you're getting into, because we do understand that turnover is costly, not only to the employers, but it's really costly to the individuals too, to have to switch jobs and to make mistakes. So do your due diligence up front, make sure you know what you're getting into, and it'll help you in your career. So
Couldn't have said it better.
Perfect. Well, that's enough, I think, on partnerships. So Skyler, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yep.